What's happening? Happy Monday and happy St. Patrick's Day to all who celebrate. I forgot my green, so you'll just have to pinch me way out there. Good luck. But a great show on tap for you today. The one and only Jessica Benson of Grind City Media will join me here on the desk because we got to get into a crazy weekend in Memphis where the Tigers win the AAC and go dancing, and the grind father himself, Tony Allen, got his jersey retired. We'll get into all the feels coming up on the 24th floor. Joining me on the show today, the talented Jessica Benson, host of the Jessica Benson Show featuring CJ Hurt. You can find her on Grind City Media. You can catch her every morning at 8 a.m. She was up bright and early this morning. You can catch her on the airwaves hosting the pre- and post-game show of the Grizzlies on 92.9 ESPN. You can catch her at every Grizzlies home game doing asking all the important questions, so catch her if you can, and clearly you can a lot. Jessica, it's pretty easy to find you these days if you're a Grizzlies fan.
Yeah. Just come to a game or click on Grind City Media in the morning or turn on the radio. It's the busiest time of the year, but it's the best time of the year.
Busiest time of the year, you don't sleep. It seems
No.
kind of ever.
It became a joke of I'm either yapping or napping, and that is not really a joke. It is my reality. But I'm happy to forfeit my afternoon nap to be here to yap with you a little bit more. You should. You should.
For those of you guys who don't know, Jessica Benson is an alum of ABC 24. Alum is the best way you can put it.
Yeah.
Does it feel nice to be back? At least to be here in the studio.
You know, it is so wild because I was going back to try to figure out when the last time I was in this building was, and it was April 6th, 2020.
Ooh.
So it was like in the thick of the pandemic, and so much changed so quickly. And it's just wild. It was an odd way to leave a place where I had spent at that time a little over 3 years. And so there wasn't a whole lot of closure, and it was kind of like, I just knew I didn't want to be a news reporter, and I was like, I'll figure it out. The rest I will figure out along the way. But yeah, so it's good to be back.
All right, you called it a little bit of exposure therapy coming back today.
Yeah, just a little exposure therapy.
Very, very cool. All right, well.
If the local news people get it. You are grinding. Everyone in local news is just working their butt off all the time. Mm-hmm. And I support you guys in your endeavors, but you can't catch me putting a camera back on this shoulder because it's dead.
I'm probably need some therapy myself with this right shoulder as we do all the shooting. But you talked about some exercising, maybe some new local news demons. You know who's been exercising demons? Who? Penny Hardaway and those Memphis Tigers.
What a difference a year makes.
What a difference a year makes. Let's get into the big idea. Memphis Tigers are your AAC tournament champions. They leave no doubt they belong in the NCAA tournament by beating UAB 84-72. PJ Haggerty named the most outstanding player in the tournament. Haggerty, Danger, and Musa Cisse named all-tournament team, and Memphis claims their second tournament title in 3 years. Shout out to one Penny Hardaway.
Through the storm, there was a huge storm last year. You know, losing this game, the first round at the tournament, my mother having throat cancer and just really just going through it. To be here now, happy, winning the regular season and the conference championship, man, I feel blessed and grateful for this situation.
Memphis, much to the surprise of a lot of folks, but to the delight of Memphians, a 5 seed. They will get Colorado State, the winners of the Mountain West. Ole Miss also in the dance. They're a 6 seed in the South region. They'll get the winner of those frauds out in Chapel Hill, UNC, and, of course, San Diego State, whoever wins that game. And then Tennessee is a 2 seed in the Midwest. They've got Wofford in the first round. The Memphis Tigers right here react to their 5 seed placement. A whole lot of people thought Memphis would land somewhere between 6 and 8, but instead they get Colorado State in the 5-12 matchup. Penny Hardaway said he was surprised, but for once in his tenure as a Memphis Tigers head coach, feels like he's getting some respect in the building.
A part of me, I would say yes because of the talk that happened. But at the end of the day, if they're going to go by resumes, we have one of the best resumes in the country. And it's hard to win games on this level. And when you win games, whether it's non-conference or whether it's in the AAC, it's tough. And I'm just thankful for them respecting that.
It was a good feeling. Just with all the talk about the seeds these past couple weeks, it was just a good feeling for us and the team to know that we in a good spot for the tournament.
A 5 seed in the NCAA tournament heading to the West region in Seattle Washington, where actually you will be by coincidence.
Yes.
Is it a coincidence? I feel like you're maybe a little clairvoyant
coincidence,
there.
but this is the second time it's happened, so maybe it's not. When the Tigers went to Portland, it's the lucky for the luck of the Irish, my Irish ancestry. But I did this exact same thing. My family's out in the Pacific Northwest. My mom lives there, and a couple of years back, we were going to go to the first and second round games in Portland, Oregon. My mom and I and a couple of her friends, and stay at a friend's house in Portland. Memphis gets sent to Portland. All right, bada boom, bada bang. This time around, I was like, there is no way that the Tigers get sent. And as I'm watching the selection show, my mom was holding out hope. And I was like, stop. Just stop. There's no way that Memphis is going to play there.
Fine, yeah.
And I was already booked.
You were already going.
I was already booked.
Right.
Booked it like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Decided I was just going to go out, get to see some of the first and second round action, see my mom, spend some time at home. And when it comes to the last reveal, in my head, it's, this is Florida's side of the bracket. What if they're the 8-9 game? What if your prize of winning one is having to play the team with the most energy behind it going into the second round? And instead, the Tigers are rewarded with a 5 seed, which is remarkable. Like, the way that this season has gone, obviously future goals are to be had. The second week of the tournament was always kind of that next step for this group. But you cannot deny that winning the AAC regular season, winning the AAC championship game, and then ultimately getting a 5 seed in the tournament, like, that's a pretty good place to start from.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. What Penny Hardaway's been able to do this year, you talk about exercising demons. He really did this because we saw what happened in January. You had that 4-game skid, and there's a lot of disappointment there. There's a lot of criticism of Penny. Like, maybe he's not the guy. He talked about, well, you know, I've always wanted to be that guy, but I've never doubted myself. But maybe there's a moment where you got to bring somebody else in.
Yeah.
And Penny comes in this year much more humbled and hits all the right buttons. You bring Dane Danger in that starting lineup there in January, February. He starts playing amazing. Musa Cisse fits right in there in that backup big spot, blocking a block and a half a game. PJ Haggerty is like the coverall, right? Like he forgives all sins whenever the Tigers have a tough game. And for them to come into the AAC tournament and having to beat a Wichita State team that always plays them super tough, some of the absolute worst officiating we have ever seen in college basketball. Felt like you get through that game, you take care of the next round, you get into that matchup with UAB, you got to beat a team for a third time, which we talk about all the time is so hard to do. You do that in convincing fashion, I would say, and then you come back, you get that 5 seed, and I think everybody was kind of holding their breath as a Memphis Tigers fan because you're thinking, best case scenario, we're probably getting a 6. Right? And you're like, okay, I can live with a 6. You know, you get that 6-13 matchup, but you're thinking it's probably still going to be an 8 seed.
Or you bargain with, okay, great, a 7.
The basketball guys,
right?
right?
And like you said, like a best case scenario being a 6, and then for that to be exceeded just feels like a real testament to the committee looking at the Tigers' resume, and it all goes back to that non-conference schedule that Penny Hardaway put together. And when you go all in understanding that the conference that you are currently playing in is not built in a way that you're able to help yourself as the season progresses, you have to make that statement early. And it starts with, I know UConn falls off throughout the year. They're still a tournament team. You get that big win over UConn, the defending champs. That carries over into the momentum on the Michigan State side of things. You play Auburn in a tight, close game, and then you get a win over Clemson, and so on and so forth. And to be able to put back the importance of that part of the schedule, coupled with it's really hard to win every game you're supposed to win. That's just a ridiculously difficult thing to ask of a team, and for Memphis to almost do it perfectly. You get 2 losses, but both are on the road, so consistently you take care of home court. You get those wins over the FAUs, the UABs, and then all of that culminating with a 3rd win over UAB. And like you said, it wasn't really in doubt in that championship game, despite being down.
No, it was a doubt for a moment.
It was a doubt for a moment. But again, that's a testament to Penny Hardaway as a coach. That's your AAC Coach of the Year, because what are you going to do when you're down Tyrese Hunter, when you're down Dante Harris? You got to reach in deep, and to have a Koji in a position where he was ready to take on those minutes and not be someone who loses you a game, or as a team that lets go of a rope and understands that, well, we're going to make the tournament anyway. And Penny talked about it after the game. Like, he's not built to approach a game and do anything but try to win that game, and you saw that on full display.
Yeah, you've got to get that to translate to your team, and I think they really had that will to win there, especially towards the end. You get into that 5-6 minute range and where they just kind of take off. You get into the fast break so many times. PJ Haggerty, man, you watch him play ball, He doesn't say a whole lot, but you can just kind of tell he's got that look in his eye like, I'm here to kill you. And he does it so well. Dane Danger's kind of been the same way. To your point about Baraka Okogie, I think that was such a great point because he really didn't do anything that he doesn't normally do. Is he a little erratic on the offensive side of the ball? Yes. But he was able to run your offense in such a way that, Dane Danger and PJ Haggerty could really get you to the finish line. And we was like, hey, man, just don't turn the ball over.
Right.
Keep playing great defense, and we'll do what we do, and they get through the win. To the point about Tyrese Hunter, we're going to have to see what happens in this NCAA tournament. They're talking about him coaching from the bench and how important that kind of was for them. And his ability to lead despite not being on the floor. But when you get into this NCAA tournament, man, it's going to be rough. Go ahead and bring up this full screen. Here's the West region that we've got. Florida is going to be your 1 seed there at the top of the bracket there. Memphis, the 5 seed. And the beauty of the 5 seed, and we'll talk about this, Jessica, is that they're going to face the winner of Grand Canyon and Maryland. And Maryland's been playing really well this season. Grand Canyon, of course, as well. You got to play well to get into the tournament. But you get to duck the 1 seed. And that was the thing that was like terrifying so many Memphians because we've known what Memphis has done the past couple of years. You go to the 8 seed in 2023, you lose to FAU in heartbreaking fashion. You think you probably deserve to win that game, just doesn't go your way, whatever. 9 seed 2022, you beat Boise State, and then you lose to the 1 seed in Gonzaga. And then looking at even at the 2023 year, you almost got a gift because if you would have won that game,
you look at what happened.
Fairleigh Dickinson beat Purdue, and you're like, what could have been? So when you look at this bracket, what really comes to mind for you?
Well, we always think of the 5-12 game as
a trap
bit of a trap.
Yeah.
And especially given the fact that Memphis is an underdog going into this game. I will counter that with this team, this city in its entirety thrives on underdog culture. Yeah. So I think there can be something. There's so much vibes that goes into March Madness, and that is something that you can rest upon. But this Colorado State team is a legitimate opponent. There's a reason why analytics will tell you that they are supposed to win this game, while Las Vegas is telling you that they are supposed to win this game. They win a Mountain West Conference that was probably disrespected from the grand scheme of things.
And won it easy.
And won it in a deciding fashion of their own. So it's a tough first matchup, but like you said, it's really about that next game and having the opportunity to take on the winner of the Maryland Grand Canyon game. Maybe you get some funkiness there. And then, as long as you get to that second weekend, then you get a crack at what some are prognosticating as like the hot pick. They're not the projected pick. I think Duke has the best odds to win now. Obviously, Auburn coming off a bit of a difficult stretch, if you can call any stretch of their season difficult. But yes, they lose a couple and ultimately fall short in the SEC tournament too. But this Florida team's really good. And so you're able to stack. But you really do have to take it, as stupid as it sounds and cliche as it sounds, 1 game at a time, because that is the nature of the tournament. And with the Tigers, it could be 1 game at a time injury-wise, too. You just don't know where guys are going to be able to come back at any given time.
Yeah, haven't given us the full prognostication or diagnosis, whatever it is with Tyrese Hunter, but we know it is his foot.
You see a boot.
You see a boot, and a boot does not bode well when you got to play a game in a week and you're hoping, they get some of that Bengay or whatever it is, rub it on there, and, you're hoping he's able to play for you because he's such a calming force for that offense. 13 or 14 points a game, their 3rd leading scorer. But he's a great leader in the way that maybe PJ is not. PJ is going to go get you a bucket. Tyrese is going to, lay the land out.
He's
this is what we gotta do. He's a steadier.
When you look at great performances in the NCAA tournament, or great teams, I should say, having what Tyrese Hunter, if he is available, brings to you, but if he's not, what that takes away from this team is important. But I do think the other piece of that is having someone like a PJ Haggerty and having someone like a Dane Danger. Those are potential stars. Those are March stars. Both of those players are the kind of player that you can foresee a road where they are amongst the most talked about players coming out of the 1st and 2nd round games.
Yeah, I think that's a really, really good point. Talking about Colorado State, 13 NCAA appearances, 2022, 2024, 2025, their most recent ones. They've got a really good ball player in Nick Clifford, 19 points, 9 boards a game. Jalen Lake, their guard, 11 points and 2.8 rebounds. They're kind of similar to Memphis in that their net ranking in KenPom maybe doesn't give you the exact idea of what they look like. But I think if you're a Memphis Tigers fan, you're like, man, screw all the analytics. Can they hoop or can they not hoop? And I would say that Colorado State can hoop. So we'll see what can happen. If you had to pull somebody to come out of this West region, who comes out for you?
I really like this St. John's team.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard for me to pick against Florida.
I'm right there with you.
But I do look at the 14 teams getting out of the SEC, and it was one of the greatest seasons we've ever seen by an individual conference, but there was a lot of politicking, like appropriate politicking that went into play of getting that respect where you end up getting 14 teams. That blows the previous record of 11 from the Big East back in 2011. And granted, UConn won it that year, so it was a team from the Big East that ultimately wins when they have that many representatives. But Rick Pitino is one of the greatest coaches that we have ever seen, and he is reminding everybody quickly just how good he is. And coming from what he did at Iona to now being able to be in that spot in St. John's, like I would look at that as a toss-up. If you're getting a Florida-St. John's game, that's a whole lot of fun for an Elite Eight with a spot in the Final Four on the line.
The NCAA tournament always comes down to like coaching.
It's a big part of it.
It's a big. I mean, your stars are going to be stars. You need your Cinderella teams and your Cinderella players, but ultimately, in a game-by-game situation, you want guys from a head coaching perspective who've been there, who know how to get their team prepared in a 24-hour stretch. And I think when you look at a Rick Pitino, that's what he's made for this moment, where he's like, all right, I got to get my guys ready in the next 24 hours. We got this team. This is what they do well. Here's what we draw up, and then ultimately, like, go be tough.
Yeah.
And we've seen Rick Pitino confront his team a couple of times this year, and it's just like, yo, like, y'all not tough enough for me. Like, I need y'all to get where I'm at. And I think we'll see. I could definitely see a Florida St. John's Elite Eight scenario going on. I think that's really fun. Let's look at the broader bracket. You guys, y'all don't have to bring up any graphics or nothing for this one, but I said fraud UNC. They'll play. Was it San Diego State? Ole Miss will get the winner of those two matchups. What do you think about that whole UNC situation? As a daughter of somebody whose your dad was on the selection committee at one point?
He was, and he was reminding me of a time, because obviously a lot of attention has gone on Bubba Cunningham being the chairman of the selection committee, and they were quick to point out that when somebody's team is being discussed, a la Bubba Cunningham as the athletic director at UNC, he has to leave the room during those discussions. But we're all humans, we're all people.
Leaves the room, yeah.
The conversations can continue outside of that, and also, just influence and where people stand. But I would actually take that influence outside of him and put it more in the realm of the brand of North Carolina. And if you are making an argument for one of those last teams in, North Carolina gets a blue blood bump. And fair or not fair, but you can make an excuse for it. And sure, West Virginia fans out there today have an absolute accurate case that they had a greater resume. They did not go 1-12 against quad one opponents, and they will be the first to tell you that. But between them, I was really pulling for Boise State to get a spot in the tournament. Obviously, they lose to Colorado State in that game, but they were a fun team to watch too. But North Carolina gets to rest on the brand. And you want to know who I'm happy for, though? The kid with the lane violation, because at least his career doesn't end with that. And that was a really tough way for a game to end. Granted, if you're going to have that, maybe you deserved for your season to end in that situation. Not him individually, but team-wise. After they had come back, I think they were down 24, and Duke playing without Cooper Flagg. But ultimately, they'll still roll. And now you see, again, can the brand carry you through the tournament a little bit? Can that experience of Hubert Davis, who has had an up and down time, but what he first inherited was experience within the NCAA tournament.
All right, so we'll see what any of these teams are going to do. Are you a bracket filler or outer?
Yes.
All of like multiple, or you just
I'm
get
like
the one?
I used to be 3, like a head, a heart, and a deep research.
Okay.
But now I'm really challenging myself to have 1.
You're a junkie, man.
How many do you? I am.
You're a junkie.
This is my favorite time of year. Like when I think back on, and this is why I say, from the local news side of things, like this time of year in particular, you work so hard. Like you are embedded in basketball. I mean, I remember coming from doing the high school state tournaments that are different weekends, coming out of the playoffs leading to the state tournament, and then going into the Memphis Tigers run and whatever SEC teams around this area. Like you're just working and keeping track of it all. But I live for it. Yeah. Like this is truly my favorite time of year, and this is one of the greatest weeks that we have.
100%, and she is 100% right. I have been working entirely too hard. Let's go ahead and talk about the women's side of this, because it is International Women's Month.
Thank you.
Here are your local placements for Coach Yo and Ole Miss are in Spokane Regional 1. They'll start in Waco, Texas, and face Ball State as a 5 seed. Tennessee, also a 5 seed. They're in the Birmingham Regional 3, and we'll head to Columbus, Ohio. Your 1 seeds are Texas, South Carolina, UCLA, and Jessica Benson's USC Trojans. I thought I had. Oh, there it is. Okay, there's my full screen graphic. I know I did that. So there's your look at your local placements. Those are your 1 seeds. I know you're clearly rooting for USC,
Clearly.
but what are your thoughts about the women's season thus far and in the NCAA tournament?
Well, the thing that stands out to me with USC and in the greater landscape of women's college basketball is that only one of Juju Watkins or Paige Beckers will be able to make it to the Final Four because USC and UConn are in the same region. That means they will inevitably, if all goes as planned, meet in the Elite Eight, which is the same situation as last year. UConn upset USC. USC now beat UConn in December of this year, and only one of them will be able to be there, which I just think is a bummer when it comes to having the opportunity to see the biggest faces. If there's one primary difference between the men's and the women's games right now, people are more familiar with the stars of the women's games.
The stars have brands.
And that comes off of Caitlin Clark,
Yeah.
and that comes off of Angel Reese and everything else that filled out around them. You're now seeing something similar with Paige Beckers, with Juju Watkins. Juju Watkins, one of the coldest players in the game right now. But
Real hoops.
But even how that extends outwards of UCLA's Lauren Betts and Notre Dame's Hannah Hidalgo, who were both National Player of the Year
Love her
candidates this year. Me
She
too. And
reminds
Notre
me of
Dame.
Skylar.
Notre Dame falling to a 3 seed is
Dark horse.
interesting.
They're really good.
They're so good. There was a period in December where you would watch Notre Dame play basketball, and between Olivia Miles and Hannah Hidalgo, you thought there's no way this team's going to lose to anybody. And so it will be interesting to see how they perform as one of the non-1 seeds, non-2 seeds out there. South Carolina had a little bit of beef with not being the overall number 1 seed. That went to UCLA. South Carolina had more quad 1 wins than anyone in the country. They particularly built their schedule that day. That way, Dawn Staley talked about how if anyone can just get a 1 seed, we'll reevaluate how we build our schedules moving forward. But South Carolina's the favorite for a reason. Dawn Staley, you talk about coaching in March. There is nobody better
Been there,
right
done
now than Dawn Staley. And this is the first time since 2020 that South Carolina isn't the overall number 1 seed. So I still think they're the scariest team in the tournament for all those reasons.
What are your thoughts about UCLA?
I think they're a very, very good team. And again, Lauren Betts could be one of those women who has a break, and it's hard to call it breakout because she's had such a tremendous season, but becomes a household name very, very quickly based on how she performs. I will remind everyone that USC beat them twice in the regular season. Now, USC did not win in the Big Ten championship game, and it has been an issue for USC where if Juju Watkins is not going lights out, who else is filling in around her? And UCLA was able to really take advantage of that in that championship game. But they're a great team. Texas is a great team as well. Those 4 1 seeds are all, that's why they're a 1 seed. Like, you're capable of winning it all.
Right. Yeah, and they even said it. I think it was the UCLA head coach yesterday was actually on ESPN. She was talking about how that rivalry and that brand that UCLA and USC have, they're like, yeah, we've already played each other 3 times. We need to make it 4 times because it's important to them. I always like watching Juju Watkins, particularly when she plays.
Oh,
UCLA.
it's like a different
like
level. She understands.
She gets like the lights get real bright for her, not in a bad way, but in
the
good
best way.
In
like,
the best way, she's like, no, I'm trying to take
kid in a
UCLA's
candy
head
store, ready to go, ready to put up biggest stats that you'll see in the game this year. But I think a part of that is because she's from that area, and so just understanding the true rivalry between USC and UCLA, it's so close. Without traffic, and it's never without traffic, but it's like 15 minutes away. But without traffic, it's ridiculously close. But it's fun to think that like both of them will be hosting those early games too.
I asked you about UCLA because it's one of those. I know you're a USC Trojan,
Yes.
so it's like say something nice.
So I wanted to go to UCLA before I ended up at USC. Yeah, it's a tough thing, and it's weird for me here in Memphis too. I was a huge UCLA basketball fan, period. So that 2008 Final Four was a very, I won't say conflicted at the time. I didn't think about rooting for Memphis. Now I look back on it with like blue-colored glasses, and I obviously would say differently. But at the time, that UCLA team was everything to me.
Whole lot of college hoops going on right now. March Madness is among us, and we will be taking it in bit by bit. Well, not even bit by bit, just like by the gallonful. Got to get a little break in here, but when we come back, it was a special weekend for one of the greatest Grizzlies to ever touch the hardwood. That is one Tony Allen, his jersey retirement emotional, and we'll show you why. Coming up next.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stay informed, prepared, and connected with ABC 24 and 24+. Coverage that alerts you to what's coming and how it will impact you. Watch extended weather coverage on 24+. the 24+ TV app, streaming 24/7 local news from the team you trust on your time.
Rain showers through the day today, and we're starting.
Track how the weather will impact your day.
Rain coming in tonight into tomorrow.
Extended, continuous coverage of breaking news, live from the scene. Go deeper with in-depth interviews and exclusive reporting. All the local news you need, live or on demand. 24+, complete coverage of your local news, weather, and more.
Here comes our first batch of rain.
Some severe thunderstorms and even several tornado warnings.
I think the bigger issue is going to be the wind gusts. So you start getting some branches knocked around. You could definitely see some power outages today. The storms could pack a punch.
It's not just the thunderstorms, it's the fact that this low pressure is so strong.
How big that storm system was.
On Weather Impact Alert Days, stream extended coverage on 24+. Download on your TV and watch for free. When news breaks, watch 24+. See the story as it's happening. Be on the scene, faster than ever before. Live updates from the team you trust. Stream breaking news on 24+. Download free on your TV now.
Tigers honor one of their favorite sons, Tony Allen, the grandfather, Mr. First Team, all defense, whatever you want to call him. You got to call him one of the best Memphis has ever seen. His jersey retirement was a perfect representation of TA. It was all heart, baby. The retirement ceremony after the Grizzlies game with the Miami Heat. Allen, a 6-time all-defensive team selection, went into the rafters alongside his core 4 teammates, Zach Randolph and Marc Gasol. Allen brought out quite the star power. Friends and teammates included Derrick Rose in the building, Vince Carter in the building, Paul Pierce, all coming together to celebrate the grandfather. Tony Allen was emotional, gave a speech that only he could, very unfiltered. It was a long time coming for Mr. First Team.
I took the other approach thinking that I wasn't gonna cry, but just so many built up emotions, fun emotions, to the point where it was like, yo, my body of work is getting acknowledged. Man, the crowd, Grizz Nation. Hell, I thought this was a playoff game tonight. We had so many seats filled, man. So that's just why I'm here, man. I love Memphis, man. This is everything I imagined. I wouldn't have never thought it'd happen like this, but we here, man, and I'm feeling the support.
An emotional TA there. Jessica Benson still with me on the show. JB, you work for the Grizzlies now. I'm sure you've had plenty of opportunities to be around TA the last couple of years. What did you think about the retirement ceremony?
I thought it was the most authentic depiction of Tony Allen for one of the most authentic human beings that I've ever had the pleasure of being around. It was awesome. Like, I really think it was probably my favorite experience thus far of being inside FedEx Forum. And there have been playoff games, there have been epic jaw performances, there have been times where the Grizzlies beat the Thunder by 70+ points, which was a wildly fun experience. But to just feel the emotions of the fans there, of the former teammates, of the people who means so much to him and who he has meant so much to, it was just a really special depiction of this beautiful relationship between Tony Allen and the city of Memphis and the Grizzlies organization that is the whole reason why number 9 goes into the rafters. Like, you look back at those core 4 years and Tony Allen was the heart. All heart, grit, grind becomes a motto, but it's so indicative of who he was in the infrastructure of that time in Grizzlies basketball and who he continues to be. Like, you see players like Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane and Jalen Wells and Santi Aldama, amongst many others, who came out and watched that ceremony too, because he has stayed connected through and through. He is a true ambassador of the organization, and that does not happen everywhere. Just like you don't have a Tony Allen jersey retirement everywhere. It's very specifically Memphis, and I say it once, I'll say it again, I'll say it 100 times. Like, if you're one of the people out there saying, do we just retire anyone's jersey these days? Like, you don't get it. And you never will, and that's okay. But everybody who lives here, who understands this, and who's like a real ball knower, they get it. Because when you see the responses from the other people outside of the Grizzlies around the NBA, be it from Russell Westbrook to Steph Curry to Klay Thompson to Kevin Durant, obviously Tony's former teammates in Boston like a Paul Pierce, a Kevin Garnett, like, this extends outside of Memphis. When you consistently are hearing, this is one of the best defenders that I ever had to go up against, or this was one of the best defenders that I ever had the pleasure of playing ball with, That's the legacy of Tony Allen, and you saw that all here at the jersey retirement.
No, I completely agree. I mean, I haven't been here as long as you, but when you get into this town and you begin to learn about the Grizzlies and just what they mean to a city, one of the first names that are going to come up, the first thing they're going to say is the core four, right? Mm-hmm. But one of the first names that are going to come up is Tony Allen, because he was the heart, the soul of that team in a way that I think Zach Randolph was probably the attitude of that team. And Mike Conley might be the brains, and I don't know where Marc Gasol might just be the glue. I don't know which one it is.
The enforcer or the glue.
Zebo
was also the enforcer.
Right, yeah, there are a lot of enforcers on this team, but Tony Allen was the heart, and it was very evident. And I think one of the things that speaks volumes is just how important not only was he to Memphis, but Memphis to Tony Allen. It was the fact that he's still here.
Yes.
Like, Memphis is not a glitz and glamour town, and TA's from Chicago, right? He lived in Boston his first, several years in the league, won a championship there. He's beloved there as well. So for him to stay here and decide, I'm riding with Memphis, this is my town, I think says a lot. And just watching the people come and just speak so beautifully about him in a way that was just like, when you're a ball player, so many of these guys can score, right? That's what they do. But when it comes down to Tony Allen, it was always going to be defense. And to your point, like, people are going to say he averaged 9 points a game. Like, why are we retiring Tony Allen's jersey? And it's like, you don't get it, dude. Yeah. You don't get it, and, like, it's okay that you don't get it because it's almost like you had to be there or you had to live here. I was at church yesterday, right? We had a guest pastor come on, and his first analogy of, like, the city of Memphis and where people can go and, like, how you kind of had to pick yourself up was just like, Tony Allen. He used the retirement ceremony of Tony Allen to epitomize like your walk with Christ and how you can, pick yourself up and how there's got to be faith in yourself and all those kinds of things. I just thought that was so Memphis because, again, you don't get it unless you are a part of the fabric of the city, and Tony Allen very much is. So it was really cool to see not only Derrick Rose and Paul Pierce come through, but Joakim Noah was there. Quincy Pondexter was there. Vince Carter, Lionel Hollins. But, of course, the core four was there. And we've already seen Zebo and Zach Randolph, Zebo and Marc Gasol get their jerseys retired as well. But here's them actually talking about being in the building and getting to see TA get his flowers.
I love it. It's been a long time, waiting for this. And everybody, celebrating TAs and his family and what he meant to the city, the work that he's doing now for the city as well and for this franchise. It's a great example that a lot of young guys should be watching.
It feels so good, going up there next to me and Big Spain number. But not only that, it wasn't given. It's all last. Tony Allen worked hard for this. Brought something to Memphis, a winning culture, team culture. Everybody come together, and be together as one. So very much well-deserved and grit and grind father, number 9. We in the Rapids, baby.
It is really incredible to me to see the bond that they still have. Obviously, Zebo and Tony, they do the Out the Mud podcast, right? And so they hang out all the time. But for Marc Gasol, he lives in Spain now. He flies over. Mike Conley would have been there had there not been, like, crazy severe weather and all those kinds of things. It's cool to me to see how the core four is very much still a fabric of this city and a fabric of each other's lives. One thing I really enjoyed as well was the unfilteredness of TA's speech, and I wish I could just let y'all watch it. If you haven't, go to Grind City Media on their YouTube. They have the whole thing, but to listen to him just F I'm here,
be him.
S word here, but be himself. Yeah. I feel bad for his wife trying to keep him on the stage,
Listen,
which was hilarious.
We have all been there before.
Yeah.
Well, and by we all, I mean those of us who are wives to
I wouldn't even say
who
that.
get
I would
really
say
excited, or friends.
Significant others.
It could be anyone.
Right,
it could be anyone where they're feeling it and they're going and going and going, and you're like, all right.
Right. Yeah, that kind of shepherd them a little bit.
He could have gone forever and always, and every person in that arena would have been holding on to every word that he was saying. And he's so funny. I think that gets lost in some of the Tony Allen legacy. He's one of the funniest players that we've ever had. We often use the word you need that perfect amount of crazy. And that's true too, especially on the defensive end. But he's also hysterical. And that's now come out through his podcast that came out in part of his speech that then trended into roast territory.
Yeah,
Well, he's roasting. He's thanking everybody, but also giving a little I remember when you wore an armband. Who do you think you are? Kobe Bryant. I remember when you were dancing to, you should have been dancing to La Bamba, but you're from Memphis, Marcus, all you listening to 3 6 Mafia. It was just a joy to be able to listen to him. And like you said, it would have been awesome for Mike Conley to be able to be there. The plan was for him to be there. But then to see him rep the Tony Allen hoodie the next day at the Timberwolves game, and for the Timberwolves to tweet grit and grind era, like, that says everything. That's just the ultimate respect. I think that's what this all comes back to, is there's a huge level of respect for Tony Allen, not just in the city of Memphis. There's a lot of love here, but the respect extends outwards of anybody who follows the NBA.
Yeah, and I thought it was really incredible how, when I did a package on this, for those of you guys who are in local news, Jessica knows what I mean. But I did a story on it about the entire ceremony, and one thing that I really pointed out was how TA decided, like, on a night that was about him, right? About giving him his flowers, about giving him the, love and respect that he's earned over, however many years. He really took the time to celebrate his mom, celebrate everybody in his family that was on the stage with him, celebrate every single one of his teammates or people who know him well that was on the stage with him. The front office executives gave Chris Wallace a big hug. Yep. His old Oklahoma State coach was up there. I just thought it was so cool that he had a story or some kind of something.
An anecdote.
For everybody that was on that stage. And when I talked to him after the ceremony, he was kind of saying that I wouldn't be myself if I didn't have each and every one of those people around him. And I think that said just so much about who TA is and the kind of person that he has become and the kind of person that he epitomizes that Memphis can really get behind. So I had something, I hadn't really planned this, but I thought about it as I got in here. So we got Zebo right here, right?
Okay.
Got the Zebo wrestling doll. I'll let you hold that.
Thank you.
So we have a whole lot of knickknacks, paddywhacks, give a dog a bone here on the stage. But we didn't have any TA representation, which I felt like was really lacking. And so I'm going to close this. This is the Chris Vernon show of the Grind City Media, the original all-heart grit and grind shirt that they brought back in here for retirement ceremony. Give me back on cam 3. Let me let y'all see this all nice and close up. All-heart grit and grind. TA was nice enough to come on the show with us this week, or last Monday, for the retirement ceremony. Gave us a lot of his really cool time, and we just really appreciated him. So you're going to live up on the stage here for the rest of this show. Really cool. We're going to wrap things up. Best thing I saw this week. It's also probably the strangest thing that I saw this week, Jessica. Bill Belichick on Instagram with his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson. It's spring break, and Bill breaking out the beach yoga. It's giving Dirty Dancing vibes.
Can I have the time of my life?
JB, can you do this with your husband, Chris?
No, and I don't think we want to try. I recently got into yoga, and then I hurt my back, and I was like, I'm just going to go back to running, but especially on the sand. I will say, like, this is how we're supposed to be helping our elders in this world. Like, no disrespect to Bill Belichick. Like, you're in your 70s. My parents are in their 70s.
Right.
Our vintage members of society. We got to keep them engaged. We got to keep them flexible. We got to keep them working out. So, like, she's doing a service here. And their relationship, hot take, I love it. I think it's adorable.
Call it what you will.
I find the happiness that exudes from the two of them strangely charming. And I have actually enjoyed the continuation of the Bill and Jordan relationship. Beach yoga and all. You do you. If it's keeping you limber, that's what you got to do,
I'm sure she's keeping him limber. All right, that's all we have for you on the 24th floor. Same time, same place. I think on Thursday, we actually won't be here. We'll be out in Seattle.
Are you going to?
I'm going to, baby. So we're going to get some JB content out there in Seattle. I'm gonna call you.
Okay,
so
great.
Don't be surprised.
Great.
Keep an eye out for all that good stuff. That's coming this weekend. I appreciate you guys tapping on the 24th floor. See you later.
Congrats. That's exciting.